Welcome to the show, everyone. Cam here, and I want to start today by asking you a very simple question. When a serious workplace incident happens and the final report lands on your desk, what's the first thing you look for? Let me guess. You're looking for that neat little section at the end that points a tidy, blame-filled finger at operator error or human mistake. Honestly, it drives me up the wall. We love a scapegoat, don't we? It's so easy. A worker slips up, a driver misses a signal, an electrician hooks up a cable to the wrong terminal. So we tick the human error box, hand out a disciplinary warning, print a shiny new checklist, and go back to our coffee. But let me tell you straight, human error is not an explanation. It is the starting point of an investigation, not the ending. Back in the early days of my career, investigations were all about clipboards, highlighters, and finding out who made the mistake. We behaved like safety cops rather than system designers. But blaming the player does absolutely nothing to change the layout of the game. It just leaves the exact same trap waiting for the next poor soul to walk into it. And let's talk about the corporate boardroom safety myths. For decades, organizations have bowed down to the DuPont-Bradley curve like it's a sacred text. They map out this linear cultural maturity progression, from reactive to dependent to independent, and finally, interdependent. The assumption is that if we just get individuals to behave better, injuries will magically drop to zero. But here is the uncomfortable truth. The Bradley curve treats safety as a personal attitude problem. And when you couple that with the high-gloss mantra of zero harm, you create a toxic expectation of perfection. Zero harm sounds noble on a hard hat sticker, but in reality, it often just drives reporting underground. People stop telling you about close calls because they're terrified of breaking the perfect record or getting blamed. You think you've achieved safety, but all you've actually achieved is silence. So, how do we break out of this cycle of blame and superficial fixes? That's where the Incident Cause Analysis Method, or ICAM, comes into its own. It's built on Professor James Reason's famous Swiss cheese model, which reminds us that accidents don't happen because of a single active failure. They happen because multiple holes in our defensive barriers line up perfectly to create a pathway for danger. Now, when you're standing at a messy, chaotic incident scene, your brain naturally wants to jump straight to conclusions. To stop that from happening, we use a structured framework called PEEPO. It stands for People, Environment, Equipment, Procedures, and Organization. It's a two-step process, PEEPO Mark 1 and Mark 2. Step 1. You brainstorm all your potential data sources before you even start. Step 2. You gather the hard facts and categorize them into contributing and non-contributing factors. And let me tell you, keeping non-contributing facts separate is vital. The fact that it was raining doesn't matter if the incident happened inside a fully sealed workshop, does it? Focus on the factors that actually influence the outcome. When you map these factors out using the ICAM Swiss cheese model, you start to see the distinction between active failures and latent conditions. Active failures are what happens at the sharp end, the physical action or omission by the operator. But those latent conditions? Those are the dormant weaknesses hiding in the system, often set up years in advance by executive decisions, poor designs, or resource constraints. Think about it. An administrative barrier, like a written procedure, fails because it was poorly drafted by someone who has never actually operated the machinery. Or a physical barrier fails because maintenance budgets were cut to meet a quarterly financial target. The worker at the sharp end didn't create those holes in the cheese. They just happened to be the one holding the torch when the light shone all the way through. This brings us to the real goal of any investigation: true organizational learning. And let's be real here. Learning is not about recycling last year's recommendations or writing a new, overly complex procedure that sits on a shelf collecting dust. Oh, an incident happened. Let's retrain everyone. How many times have we seen that? It's lazy. Training is an administrative control. It's right near the bottom of the hierarchy of controls. If your system is so fragile that a single human mistake can cause a catastrophe, then your system is the problem, not the human. We need to design systems that are error-tolerant. We need to engineer out the hazards or use physical, hard barriers wherever possible, so that when a human inevitably slips up, the system traps and mitigates the error before it leads to harm. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. Why do leaders so often reject these systemic ICAM recommendations? Because they are politically sensitive. They expose uncomfortable truths. They reveal incompatible goals. Like when senior management tells workers to put safety first, but then rewards them entirely based on production speed and keeping costs down. When an ICAM finding shows that production pressure directly led to a shortcut, it places the responsibility back on the executives who designed those targets. That's a tough pill to swallow. But a leader with real courage and integrity will welcome those findings, because they know that trading risk for short-term efficiency is a losing game. We need to foster a genuine, fair and just culture. It's not a no-blame culture where anything goes. It's a culture of trust where honest mistakes are treated as opportunities to learn and rebuild the system, but where reckless violations are clearly defined and handled appropriately. So next time you're looking at a safety report, don't ask who messed up. Ask, how did the system allow this to happen? Let's stop fixing the blame and start fixing the systems. Thanks for tuning in to Cam's Corner. Stay safe out there, and I'll catch you next time.